thank you all for being here. I'm Mary Haggerty Airsom, the president of the Office of Partnerships for Operation Hope. And I think the most significant part of that is the fact that I got to launch our Denver office 11 years ago when we came into the city and realized that we have such incredible potential to partner with the city, to partner with Denver Public Schools, to partner with our private sector partners, Colorado Federal Savings Bank, and others, to work with individuals and invest in them to help themselves achieve what we call a life of dignity. 11 years later, we have educated over 15,000 youth in Denver Public Schools and community-based organizations. And in our conversations with Colorado Federal Savings Bank that had been providing volunteers for years and years and years with Operation Hope, we said, let's do more. So we have parents of our students that we're educating. We have legal guardians of the students we're educating. We have paraprofessionals in Denver Public Schools that may be suffering from financial stress, maybe wanting to dream of buying their own home, starting a business, increasing their credit score to 700 and above. So we made a commitment at that point, and with the support of Colorado Federal Savings Bank, to invest in our first Hope Inside in the city of Denver. So I want to thank you for being here today. And without further ado, I want to introduce you to the Vice Chairman of Colorado Federal Savings Bank, Randy Illich.
Thank you, Mary. And I really am honored here to be with our distinguished speakers here as well, the Honorable Mayor Michael Hancock, and also the founder and Chief Executive Officer and Chairman of Operation Hope, John Hope Bryant. So, and also distinguished guests here and members of the community. We're very honored to be part of Operation Hope and Hope Inside Denver. We worked with Hope for the last 2 years, and we hope to continue this relationship in the years to come. I'd like to introduce, we have two of our colleagues here today from our bank. We have Lauren Money, who's our Vice President and Community Reinvestment Officer for Colorado Federal, and Kevin Deaver, who's our Chief Compliance Officer as well. So on behalf of our colleagues at Colorado Federal Savings Bank, our management, board of directors, and especially our owner, Craig Pica, and the Pica family, we want to introduce you to this wonderful, wonderful program here in Hope in Denver. Operation Hope is very unique, and when I learned it was going to be at this library, I did a little research about the name of the library, Rodolfo Gonzalez. Did a little history checking up on him, and really it was interesting that Rodolfo, you know, he's a Mexican-American, born here in Denver, family immigrated from Mexico, born in the 20s. He grew up in the Depression, and they asked him, you know, how did it feel to be poor in the Depression? And of course his answer is, well, we were poor, it felt the same. And he was really an activist who started back in the 40s, really active in Denver in the politics, getting mayors elected, but eventually found out that the system was not working towards, you know, the migrants, working towards people who were, you know, disenfranchised. And he became an activist, and he kind of reminds me of what Cesar Chavez did during that era in time. And I learned his middle name was Corky because he had a temper, and it would blow off like a cork. So they named him Corky for that purpose, and it kind of brought me back to when I was younger and, you know, was touched by financial literacy as well. My father passed away when I was younger. We were broke, not poor, as from that perspective. We had a very loving family. And in high school, there was an organization, nonprofit, that came in. They introduced themselves to financial literacy, and I was just an FD student, barely making it. And so through that area, it really kind of touches me here to kind of where the dots connect to where we are able to bring financial literacy to Denver with Hope Inside Denver, and also most important is the lives that we do touch. They say never judge a book by its cover. Well, people would never know that that's where my life came from. I don't have a college education. I had to work to support my family. But being touched through a counselor, through someone who can really mentor you, meant a lot for my family and my life especially. I lost my brother through depression, so it was my mother and I after that. But the mentorship that we had in the organization, and this is going back in the 70s and early 80s, really helped. Were part that kind of made me who I am today. So giving back is very important, and that's what our financial institution feels is very important to this community and the communities that we serve. And we are very, very proud to be a part of this, and very proud that if Corky knew what is going on right now within his library that's dedicated to him, that we are empowering the individuals who need economic benefit. Because really, when you look at the politics in the country today, it's so divisive that really it's going back to the economics. We need to empower, many, many more generations here. There's over 100 million people just in our country alone that are considered broke or poor. And Mr. Bryant would also say, and he's spoken about it, there's about 5 billion throughout the world. And really, empowerment is really what we want to do. And Operation Hope is really an organization that we've embraced over the last 2 years, and we hope to continue embracing them moving forward. And I just wanted to thank everyone here, Mary, John, the mayor, and everyone here in the room here today for allowing us the opportunity to show Rodolfo Gonzalez that his legacy continues, and it continues in the library, and we will empower and we will help people to understand financial awareness through financial literacy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Randy. When Colorado Federal Savings Bank made the commitment to Operation Hope as a bank without branches, the first phone call that we made was to Mayor Hancock's office to schedule a call to see in the city of Denver what would be the best location for this Hope Inside, where we could reach the largest number of individuals and families. And the mayor shared that, why don't you go into one of my libraries? And it was not a model that we had implemented at all anywhere else in the country. We had many meetings to look at the right location, finally settling on Corky Gonzalez, and here we are. When I visited the library 6 months ago, you feel that rush of energy when you walk through the door. This is a library, but it is so much more. And it is representative of the depth and the heart and the soul of the city, and how you welcome the community members into the city buildings and into those that serve the community members the most. So I want to introduce Michelle. And Michelle is the city librarian and has had so much experience working in this space. So Michelle, if you could join me at the mic, please.
Good afternoon. It's always a pleasure to welcome people to the Rodolfo Corky Gonzalez Branch Library. I'm not supposed to be partial, but we're here. I guess we're being televised, so I should be very careful. But this is one of our most outstanding libraries. It is an amazing resource in this community. It was well needed, and it is well loved. And I have to attribute much of that to the amazing staff that makes magic happen here every day. So this was an easy thing to say yes to. I love that this is called Hope Inside, and that's because libraries are about hope. That's what we do. We are about empowerment. We are about lifelong learning. We are about community, about possibility, opportunity, all of that. But we're also about partners, because we can't do all the things that we know our community needs by ourselves. So we partner all the time, every day, bringing in programming. This is a little different. This is a radical partnership where we've opened up our space to another organization to allow them to help us allow our community flourish and thrive. And so far, from what I can tell, it's going really well. I think our missions align very, very clearly, And I'm really looking forward to seeing how this unfolds here in this community and whether we can talk about other opportunities across our city. So very thrilled about the partnership. Want to thank the mayor for suggesting this because it makes a lot of sense, and also for his ongoing support. Definitely want to thank all the staff that have been involved from the city, the Office of Financial Empowerment, Operation Hope, and the Colorado Federal Savings Bank. So thank you all for coming, and I look forward to seeing where this all goes.
Noreen Williams and Veronica Robles, if you could please join me at the mic. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to the two women that make it all happen, our financial well-being coaches.
Hello, everybody. I actually want to thank every one of you for actually being here for this very special event. For me, it has been a pleasure to work with the Denver community, and it's been a pleasure to also introduce the Credit and Money Management Program here in the state of Colorado. And it's been a pleasure to work with the community, and I actually have a very special guest speaker today. She's been one of my biggest success stories, and I just want for you guys to hear exactly the impact that the program has with the community. Before I actually introduce my client, I want to introduce you guys to our newest coach. Her name is Noreen Wilson. She will be the coach out of this location. So I'll go ahead and pass the mic over to her so she can introduce herself.
Hello, and thank you all for coming out on a Friday. I'm sure the 3-day weekend had nothing to do with this turnout whatsoever, but we appreciate you all coming. I'm the new kid on the block. I started on Monday. So I don't even have a business card yet, but I know that some of you do, so I'll be glad to collect yours and collaborate and gather so that we can see how high we can take this organization. Thank you.
Alrighty, so Nagam Swati, if you want to join me up here, I would love for you to actually share your story with the rest of the community here. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let me just apologize from the get-go. Super nervous. My name is Nagam Swati, and my story starts out when I was an undergrad, 19, 20 years old, taking summer classes, just try to finish on time. And somehow my scholarship and the financial aid didn't work. And so here I am with this, tuition bill that had gone to collections, had no idea what to do with it. First generation, I came from Iraq. My parents kind of didn't know what a credit was. A credit score, credit cards is just there. So this debt kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and just haunting me. I got married 1.5 years ago, and my husband and I, we wanted to start a family, buy a house, get a car, and I wasn't able to do that because that $2,500 debt had grown to $5,500. And I'm like, well, I have the $2,500. Can I pay that? They're like, no, you need to pay the entire thing with interest. And I'm like, that's cruel, and I can't do it. I work at the Denver Public Library. I work at Gonzalez. Hope Inside, we do offer hope here. Whoever needs information, we get them to those resources. We have the Plaza program for services to immigrants and refugees. So we give them the hope to learn English, the hope to get their citizenship, all of that stuff. I'm the oldest of 6 kids, and I pride myself in always knowing what to do. I give hope to my siblings. Yet this situation, I couldn't fix it. No matter how hard I tried, how many times I tried calling them saying, guys, look, please help me. I need to go on, living my life. This can't hold me back. And it did. So we knew Hope Inside was coming. We know Operation Hope was coming. They told us, it's coming next month and next month and next month. So for like 6 or 7 months, we knew Hope was coming. We didn't know when. And so then I met Veronica. And she's not just my coach. We are friends, I'd like to think. Very close friends. And so I was like, hey, I'm not trying to take away from our customers because our customers need you more than I need you. But if you have the time, do you mind hearing me out? And she did. And she was like, just bring whatever information you have. And I swear to you, within one phone call, I was able to reduce that debt. And I paid it off one payment. Thank you. 2 months later, my credit score jumped over 80 points. And now we're able to buy that house, to buy that car, and actually start our life. So, financial literacy is inherited, just like a lot of things. My parents coming from Iraq, we didn't have a credit score. We didn't have any of that stuff. You know, they didn't know how to lead me through this tough path. And Veronica gave me that hope. She changed my life for the better. And I'm hoping and praying that my story isn't the only story, that everyone else can have the same success that I've had. And now I know, I was a 20-something. You know, I had no idea. Financial literacy at that time, I didn't know what it was. I knew math, I knew science, I knew how to read and write. Did not know about financial literacy. And now I have the tools for my kids, my siblings, and my participants, for everyone else. So Veronica, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And as I shared, our goal today, our results and our impact happens locally. It happens right under this roof. But Operation Hope's broader goals are global. And we work to tell your story and share your story as we are live right now, so that hundreds and millions of individuals can share their same story, can buy that first home and get out of debt. And you can feel the pressure relief. Buy a house, yes. We can help with that. I now have the pleasure of introducing the founder, chairman, and CEO of Operation Hope, John Hope Bryant. As everyone in the room knows, we are celebrating our 25th anniversary this year. 25 years ago, after the largest civil unrest in the United States, John Hope Bryant made a choice to make sure that we could bring hope to as many individuals as possible in Denver, in the state of Colorado, throughout the United States, and throughout the planet. 2016, John Hope Bryant was awarded the Innovator of the Year by American Banker. First nonprofit, first individual ever to receive Innovator of the Year for this model for Hope Inside, because in John's vision had become reality, and we had put a plan in place where we could scale this center, this model, this Hope Inside, and we're going to have 1,000 locations open by 2020. So without further ado, John Hope Bryant.
Nice to meet you. You are fantastic.
Thank you.
Yes. What country are you from?
Iraq.
Fantastic. Persian Empire. So, hello, everybody. I'm sorry, I'm from the Black Church. I'm actually talking to you. I'm used to seeking response, so I'm trying to. Hello, everybody. There we go. Now you're all honorary black people. It didn't take long. And I want to, first of all, acknowledge my Facebook family that we have about 29 million viewers in the last 14 months on John Hope Bryant Live. A dozen of those videos are over 1 million views. There's one that's approaching 5 million views. And I'm going to make sure that the mayor and I working together. The city's TV station is broadcasting. I'm broadcasting. We'll make sure that this message gets out far and wide, because I think it's important. I think that your testimonial really is why I'm here. I was just telling the mayor what would happen if that story was repeated 1,000 times over in the city of Denver. Would that raise GDP? Would that raise economic aspirational security? Would it provide stability? Would it provide economic growth? Of course it would. And I didn't know you were going to speak, but the magic of this is increasingly I just show up and I'm more like a prop these days. My team does all the real work, because it's not about a personality, it's about the product, and the product is people. And that aligns me with Denver. Denver, which was really originally called or referred to as Montana City way back when, Denver came up in the gold rush, and because of that had booms and busts and had a lot of interesting people running through this city. At some point, Denver realized that its product wasn't a mineral in the ground. it was the people in the city. And when the city figured that out and got responsible leaders who understood its core product, not only did the whole city rise again, but it stabilized. And you're now the fastest growing, according to 2015 data, the fastest growing city in America. So you're the highest elevation of a city in the country. You're the most populous city, of course, in the state. But you're also the fastest growing, or maybe even if the 2015 data is a little old, you're still one of the top 5 fastest growing major cities in the country. That says a lot about your DNA. It says a lot about who you are, whose you are, how you operate, what your priorities are. It says a lot about your leadership's ability to bring people together. I want to talk about Randy and his story. We don't really have the time to get into it, but Randy's story is an immigrant story. You see him here as a vice chairman of a $2 billion bank, and he comports himself in that way. But he really is immigrants of Eastern European family that him and his wife, their mother and father, dodged bullets, literally, to really escape oppression, to come here with nothing and to build what they now know to be the American dream. And in many ways, Randy and his company, Randy could have sent somebody else. He could have, well, with the mayor here, I'm sure he would show up. But he, just smart. But I don't think he wanted to send anybody else. I think he wanted to show up himself because I think this is personal to him. And we forget our own story. We forget that we're all immigrants. I'm sorry, everybody with a Native American Indian is an immigrant. But wherever you're from, you're an immigrant. And you don't think I'm right, go back 4 generations in your family. And you'll find they did not have manicured nails. They had dirt under their nails. You'll find that they didn't call themselves Americans, they called themselves Germans and Italians and Polish and Jewish and Latin Americans and those from the Middle East. And we made this country the most robust country in the world, the largest democracy in the world, the largest economy in the world, because we figured out a way to get to work together. You have all this type A personalities coming together with the American dream. And we found that we've got more in common than we do that separates us until we don't. And so you have moments like today in these era we're living in today where it seems like everybody in the world wants to be an American except Americans. We're sort of forgetting that we're how special we are, how amazing our special sauce is. And we start trying to blame somebody else for our problems. The reality is, this was unearthed at our annual meeting, Hope Global Forum last month, 3,700 delegates in Atlanta, Georgia. The facts are that in the last decade, 4 to 5 jobs have died because of automation, not immigration. That's a fact. That's a fact. That's not an opinion. That's a fact. So we really need to get our act together. We've got to reimagine who we are and whose we are and figure out what battle we're really fighting and align together and aim at a new target called our shared prosperity, because your problem is not your next door neighbor. It's a foreign country that wants to eat our lunch because they want to be America too. And what does it have to do with this conversation today inside of a library? Why would you talk about world affairs here? Because history never feels historic when you're sitting in it. It just feels like another day. You know, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and I have the honor, the mayor and I know Ambassador Andrew Young, and we call him Ambassador, but that was Dr. King's right arm and chief strategist in the civil rights movement. And when you go back and watch the photos of the assassination on that balcony in Memphis, the arm pointing toward the shooter is Andrew Young's arm. And the directions for the shooter was, if you miss the dreamer, kill the strategist. And that's why Andrew Young can't rest. He's got survivor's guilt. But those 10 years weren't all glorious I have a dream speeches. Dr. King went to libraries with his kids. He went to PTA meetings. He went to all kind of boring staff meetings. He gave that I Have a Dream speech 100 times before the March on Washington, and I'm sure that the 88th time, very much like the mayor and I give speeches, we wonder whether it's having any impact at all. I'm sure he said, this is not going to matter. I need to stop doing this. This is a waste of my time. But what if he had given up the 88th time? Think about that. What if he just thrown his hands up? The fifth time somebody hit him with a brick over his head, or when the mayor did not meet him at the airport when he showed up after he won the Nobel Peace Prize, or when the city leaders in Atlanta refused to honor him after he won the Nobel Peace Prize because small-mindedness took over once again. What if he had given up? The world would be completely different. Dr. King had 70 employees. 70. 70. Think about your divisions. Think about your companies now. Think about your department. You probably have 70 people in your department. The budget for SCLC was $500,000 in their top year. And they were always broke. They were raised money from churches, basically. They had no budget. It was just going from crisis to fiscal crisis, but still we rise. Over it, around it, through it, somehow they got to it because they had a vision larger and more important than themselves. And Dr. King said, if you don't know what you're willing to die for, you aren't fit to live. Now, our struggle for this movement didn't start with Dr. King and Andrew Young. It actually lines up very well with the history of this city. 1861 basically is when you were organized. And if you go and do your history, you'll find a lot of stuff happened in 1860, 1861, 65. It was an explosion of growth. It was right after 61 is when the Civil War began, by the way. 65 is when the Civil War ended. There was an explosion of innovation and growth. There was another explosion around 1900, from 1900 to about 1910. Go look what all the big companies were created. UPS, Jim Casey with $100 and a bicycle, 1906. Henry Ford, 1902. You can go on and on and on. It was the same era of enormous struggle and challenge, hello, where we had to redefine and recommit to who we were. And America didn't rise because of rich people. It rose because of common people with uncommon determination and dreams, because every big company was once a small one. Walmart was Sam Walton with a pickup truck in the storefront. I just mentioned UPS. That was Jim Casey with $100 and a bicycle. I can go on and on and on. Think about the big companies here. Want somebody's individual dream, like this bank. Now, and the mayor here comes from humble beginnings. 10 children in his family. Twin, is that right? And they think about the fact that he's got these awards from the Aspen Institute and all this kind of stuff, but they don't realize how humble his story is. And he's proud of the fact we share this lineage that he actually comes from Cameroonian slaves, just like me. Yeah, we share a DNA. My DNA is 71% Cameroon, 26% European, the rest is Asian, Indian, and other, which means if I hate white people, I hate myself. If I hate black people, I hate myself. I hate Africans, I hate myself. I hate Latinos, I hate myself. I hate Asians. If you want to freak yourself out, go do a DNA test. You want to blow your mind, or you want to blow the mind of somebody who you have some backwards views that lives down the street from you. Just get a swab off of a cup that you got when you took them to lunch and send the swab into a DNA laboratory and send the results directly back to the most backwards person you ever met. And when you meet them again, they'll be completely flush because they'll realize they probably have every race within their system. See, we argue over stupid stuff. I'm about to tell you about something that's pretty practical and makes a lot of sense. 1861, already mentioned, that's when you were organized. 1865, the Civil War came to an end. Now, we celebrate Abraham Lincoln, but the fact is he was kicked out of a political party. I don't know if you know the Whig Party. I'm going to do this very quickly. The Whig Party was the biggest political party in America, 1830 to 1850. Single party. but they were for slavery. God don't like ugly. Lincoln was thrown out of this party, could not win for dog catcher, left the party, went back to become an attorney because he couldn't win an election, and created the Republicans, which was a little different than it is now. And half the states in America wouldn't vote for him, wouldn't put him on the ballot, and that's why we had the Civil War. Fast forward into the Civil War. Abraham Lincoln puts a Southern segregationist on his cabinet as vice president because he figures I'm not going to be killed after the war. The war is over. They assassinate him in April 1865. What happened in March 1865 was he signed a piece of legislation called March 3rd, 1865, Mr. Mayor, called the Freedmen's Bureau Act. The Freedmen's Bureau Act created the Freedmen's Bank, which nobody knows about. The Freedmen's Bank's mission, quote, can't make this up, quote, teach freed slaves about money. So arguably the most progressive president we've ever had thought the most radical thing that he could do to bring former slaves back into a system of freedom after physical emancipation was to teach them about free enterprise, combining money with learning and education in books. Remember, 40 Acres and a Mule? And 40 Acres and a Mule came 2 months before the bank. It was 400,000 acres, then the mule came because they were such hard workers, and then the bank came to finance the land so you could create a crop and create sustainability. That was 3 months of transformational public policy. Lincoln gets killed the next month in April. The same day, Mr. Mayor, he signed this legislation, he put in God We Trust on U.S. currency so that slavery and free enterprise and government would never mix again as one story. A guy named Frederick Douglass, who we know as an abolitionist, was really a businessman. He owned lots of property in Baltimore. And he wanted to run this bank because he thought the most important thing he could do was to continue this bank's legacy. Put $10,000 of his own money into this bank in 1865, which is, for the mathematicians and my friends from the Federal Reserve in the back of the room, Cisneros will tell you, is about $20 million today, which means he wasn't a broke man. And he knew he wasn't going to get the money back. It was a government bank. No disrespect intended. The bank fails in 1874. 72,000 former slaves put $52 million into this bank, which is $100 billion today. It's unbelievable. And the bank failed because it was gamed, not because it wasn't viable. And where was the bank located? Because Washington is all proximity to power. The first federal building ever created in America was the Treasury building, ever. Every federal building was inside the Treasury building because it was all about money. Weights and measures, census, it was all about money. The only building that share a lawn with the White House is the Treasury Department, then and now, and a tunnel. So you have the Department of War to the left. Now it's the old Executive Office building. To the right, you have Treasury. In front of you is the park in honor of the French who helped us with our independence from Britain. To the left is Blair House, where we have visiting heads of state. To the right is what was called Treasury Annex Building until recently is now called, after I bugged them for a year, the Freedmen's Bank Building. I'm the only American citizen ever to get a building renamed on the White House campus because that was a location of Lincoln's most important social experiment. Lost to history. Even the White House, Mr. Mayor, did not know their own history because it's been buried. You fast forward from 1865, 1874 to 1968. By the way, interesting enough, the first Civil Rights Bill, 1875, was followed by a surge in black banks, which was followed by a tenfold surge in black businesses. And if you don't think those two things are connected, then you're not getting the memo for sure. So 4,000 businesses turned into 40,000, which turned into jobs, which turned into opportunity, which turned into GDP. You fast forward to 68, Great Depression, we had that. 68, here comes Dr. King, not a banker, a minister, trying to eradicate poverty. He's killed April 68, the same month as Lincoln, 100 years later. Here's my point. It's not like we got the memo on free enterprise and capitalism, ladies and gentlemen, and screwed it up. We just never got the memo. There's a memo on money. There's a memo on free enterprise. There's a memo on job creation. There's a memo on running a city. There's a memo on GDP. Most people don't even know what that phrase is. There's a memo on running a library system. And if you didn't get the memo, you can be as smart as you want to be, but it's what you don't know that you don't know that's killing you, but you think you know. Let me get now practical. Cisneros tells me, we're just from the Federal Reserve, tells me at the beginning of the presentation, Federal Reserve comes out with a study, 44% of all Americans could not survive a $400 emergency without selling something or borrowing. Is that right, Cisneros? I'm gonna repeat that. I want this to really sink in. Anybody thinking I'm talking about black people or Latino people or, those poor? No, I'm talking about you people. Because whether you're black, white, red, brown, or yellow, you want to see some more green. Can I get an amen? Because today we've got folks with too much month at the end of their money. And I don't care where you're living. You're living in Denver making $50,000 a year, you're struggling to make ends meet, yes? You're living in New York City, you're making $70,000 a year, sounds like a lot of money. Living on the island of Manhattan, you are struggling to make ends meet. You're living in rural Colorado, I don't know, making $25,000, $30,000 a year, my guess is, good people, intelligent people, sweet people, you're struggling to make ends meet. 70% of Americans living from paycheck to paycheck, 7-0. But 70% of our GDP is consumer spending. Now you do that math. So what's my point? There are more check cashers in America than there are Starbucks. There are more payday loan lenders in the state of Alabama than the entire nation combined. The richest state in America was Mississippi, 1830. Without question, they're richest. I won't tell you why, maybe you can figure it out. What's the poorest state in America today? Where 1 out of 3 of every dollar in that state is a federal dollar. The same state that says they don't like the federal government, which means you're just financially illiterate and ignorant. And I'm not picking on Mississippi, I'm picking on ignorance. I'm saying that we can take no pleasure from the fact that there's a hole in my end of our boat. Hello. Because we're all in this mess together. The mayor cannot build a city that's not financially resilient. He cannot build and sustain a city that's not financially resilient. Here's our problem. In every neighborhood we care about, black and white, urban and rural, Republican and Democrat, here's where you have all your problems. A check casher next to a payday loan lender, next to a rent-to-own store, next to a title lender, next to a liquor store. Hello? That's not a minority neighborhood, that's a 500 credit score neighborhood. And what? And a pawn shop, and a renting rim store. A pot shop, a POT shop. Is that unique to Colorado? Okay. $700 credit score communities don't riot. You've never had a 700 credit score community riot in America's history of any race, in any place, at any time. It's never happened. 700 credit score communities don't riot, they want to go shopping. My mission's simple. We're sitting in a moment in history right now. But history never feels historic when you're sitting in it, it just feels like another day. I don't want to look back 25 years at this moment and say I missed the moment. I decided to finish what Lincoln started. So the first thing was to get the building renamed. Went to Congress, went to the Senate. They said, you can't do this, you're just an American citizen. I said, yeah, but I'm God's child. So I went to the Secretary of the Treasury and let their lawyers lecture me on federal law. I asked them, look, entertain me, just check the records. They came back, Mr. Mayor, and found out you can do it administratively. Google search on your phone, don't trust me. Pull up the Freedmen's Bank building, and you'll see what happens when you dream big dreams. Now, I decided that wasn't enough. That PhDs are good, but PhDs much be better. And so I took the model of Bank of the West, and we have Stephanie here with her child. Where's Stephanie at? She came with her child here. Maybe she had to step out, but Stephanie from Bank of the West, which is a model for our original work. And we decided that we were going to explode that model. We went from 11 locations back down to one because I thought the 10 of them were failures, back down to one, which was Bank of the West model, and decided to reimagine ourselves. That was at 2015. I decided we're going to have 1,000 Hope Inside locations across this country in bank branches, grocery stores, big box retailers, houses of faith, libraries, police departments, where people flock, stop, and shop to raise credit scores to 700 because nothing changes your life more than God or love than moving your credit score 120 points. People laughed at me. They dismissed me. They said, this guy is kooky. I am crazy because you can't change the world unless you're nuts. I went to the mayor 3 years ago at CGI America here in the city, and I shared my vision with him. He didn't laugh at me. He didn't dismiss me. He said, just tell me when you're ready and we'll open one with you. I just put that in my pocket, just folded it up and put that in my pocket and went to work. I knew I couldn't embarrass him. I knew I couldn't bring him speculation. I had to bring him results. Today, we have orders for 435 locations in 2 years. I've opened up my 86th location today in 2 years. We're in UPS for their employees. We're in Delta Airlines for their employees. We're in Hyatt Hotels for their employees. We're in Whole Foods for their employees. We're in Atlanta Police Department because the police officers are filing for bankruptcy at twice the national average. And you don't think that it's a problem if your police officers are financially stressed out? Hello? We are in the City Hall in Ferguson, Missouri. That city might ring a little tone in your head. We are in a hospital in Detroit Medical Center. We're in 40 banks across America, and even in banks with no branches, we're now partnering in libraries, our first library in our entire system. And stories like you heard from the young lady who's raised her credit score are actually pretty common stories. And what happens when you raise your credit score? Does your self-esteem come up? Does your confidence come up? Your trust in the system? Your belief in yourself? You believe that you can versus you can't. And all of a sudden your optionality opens up and now you say, maybe I don't want to just go rent, maybe I'm gonna own. She said, I didn't say it, now I gotta go buy a house. When she buys a house, it creates a taxpayer, which by the way helps him balance his budget. And when you create a taxpayer and a homeowner, now you created a voter because you have people who vote who have a stake in their own system. This is not rocket science, this is just building a city that works. So, I'm gonna tell you one quick story of a borrower that came in, and I'm gonna stop and let the mayor, because the mayor has to go to his next appointment. I wanna really thank him for being here today. Lady walks into a SunTrust branch for Hope Inside. She wants a $140,000 mortgage to buy a home. The bank turns her down. The banks won't tell you that they cannot tell you that you're not approved when they meet you. It's by law, it's discrimination for them not to allow you to take an application. They will not tell you that you're not approved. So make a long story short, it's our job to then look at that same credit report and say, is this yours? No, that's not mine. That's called an error. Can we challenge it? If we challenge it and they don't respond within 30 days, they must remove it. That's a 40-point pop. So now you're at not 550, now you're at 590. Then we deal with a charge-off. That charge-off is 10 years old. It's 5 cents on the dollar. We pay them double what they're asking for. Your credit score went up 30 points. They have 100% profit. You got an 80% discount. The banker can't do this. My staff can. Now you're at, you're at 630 in my example. We just keep working with you, get you to 650, get you to 680, walk you back across the hall and get you a 4% mortgage to become a homeowner in that city. And that is not a fable. That's not a dream. That actually happened. Took us 8 months. But that's nobody's job in America, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to become the private banker to the working man and woman. We're going to be the Starbucks of financial inclusion. And I just simply asked the mayor, how many do you want in the city? See, as founder and chairman, I can just do that. I can just say, how many do you want? And go get partners to do it. And it's sustainable because we're getting the banks out of the no business and back into the yes business. It's a business equation and not just social uplift. It's sustainable because you're creating GDP for cities. It's sustainable because you're creating stable employers and because you're making a city lift and live again. This is possible. Some dreams are actually possible. So I'm honored to be here in Denver. I'm honored to have kept a promise to my friend, the mayor. I'm honored to be keeping a promise to you, and I'm so honored to have heard your story. This is what keeps me up at night. and it's what gets me up every day, because I believe that we can change this world in our lifetime. It's not going to be the President of the United States. It's going to be you and me that truly makes America great again. My friend, the mayor, Michael Hancock.
That was awesome. John, Hope, Bryant, thank you. Thank you for keeping your promise, and thank you for your vision. Let me say good afternoon to all of you, and I'm going to be brief because I do have to get off to another engagement. But let me thank Randy for your support as well and for your investment. It is appropriate that it is in this library, or a library in any way, right? Michelle Jeske is a visionary leader who has found it in her vision to make sure that we have social services and program services in the libraries to help anyone who walks through the door. Libraries, John, are a very unique place in that it's one of the most public places in the city. Anybody can walk through these doors. In fact, everybody does walk through these doors. There's no restrictions on income. There's no restrictions on where you live. People from the very wealthy neighbor or income brackets to our most challenged are walking these doors seeking resources. And so it's appropriate that this Hope Center is here at the Corky Gonzalez Library, named after a man who made tremendous impact in our city, in the life of our city, one in which today, in friendship with his widow and children who are still alive and here in Denver doing tremendous things, we celebrate. And when we walk through these doors, we're living his vision for all the people of Denver. Let me acknowledge the presence of Jerry Tiano to give you an example of how broad this issue is in the life of our city. Jerry Tiano is executive director of our Office of Sustainability, putting all three legs of the stool together. Thank you for being here, Jerry. We also have Perla Gaylor, who is here. She is our executive director of aging for the city of Denver. Thank you as well, Perla, for being here. And I saw Miriam Pena. Where did she go? She was somewhere. She's moving around. She may have had to take off. But Miriam is in charge of our Office of Strategic Partnerships in the city of Denver. So putting all this together along with the library is an amazing, amazing opportunity for the city of Denver. We hope that we'll get this one up and running, and we will do some lessons learned, and we'll take it to scale. Hopefully to other libraries and maybe recreation centers as well. Let me acknowledge Noreen, who I've known since I was a little boy. And I'm going to tell you something. This is a true story. She may not remember this, but when I was a teenager, Noreen used to take us all around and, grab ice cream, and she would lecture us when she got us in her car. And she would take care of a couple of us. My best friend in high school, Marvin, and his brother, Michael, prolific musician here in Denver. And one lecture centered around economic responsibility. You may not remember that. You talked about saving money, protecting your credit, even back then. And I never forgot that. And so when I walked in here and you said, I'm about tired of this, that you are the new director. Maybe if I'm on the wrong spot.
I got you, brother. I got
No, yeah. that you're that you're the director or the new coach here. I'm like, how fitting is that for her to take over? Because 30 years ago, she was all over us about this very issue. It was 30 years ago. Let me say this: empowerment. John, as mayor of the city, I promise you I spend 70% of my time dealing with the issues of empowerment for our most vulnerable in our city. And it's regardless of whether we're talking about housing, a workforce, bringing new jobs so that we're thinking about the opportunities that it will provide for all the residents. There's nothing more fundamentally important in every city across this country today than lifting up the most vulnerable. And economic empowerment is the foundation of doing exactly what we need to do as cities. I'm just going to give this example, then I'll be done. If we study what's happened in America over the last 5 years, in terms of the unrest and the frustration we've seen, the rise of organizations like Black Lives Matter, and believe in our hearts that the only concern that those groups have is about police, community relations, and police excessive force, then we're all wrong. These organizations understand the fundamental and broad challenge that this nation has ignored for decades. The reaction of these communities is born out of the ongoing frustration of social and economic stagnation, the building of prison industries before we build adults with education and investment, neglect. In 2013-14, I happened to be in Washington, and the president knew that several mayors were there, and he called us in to the White House. And he asked us for our advice on what should be in his State of the Union address. They were in the midst of writing, and he had his writers there ready to hear our thoughts. The most amazing thing of that conversation was every mayor, and about 6 or 7 of us, were all on the same page. We advised the president that this nation was a powder keg, and the decades of wage stagnation, income stagnation, was the root cause of it. And that we encouraged him to talk about his speech and to formulate strategies around how we begin to lift people up and provide opportunities through workforce training, through access to education and higher education and housing, and you address the issues of mobility so that we can begin to level the playing field. Folks, what we've seen across this nation, it's about the young brothers who've lost their lives unnecessarily to excessive force. But the power of that frustration is born out of those examples of excessive force, but also the social and economic frustration that these communities have felt for years. And if you notice, to John's point, those folks protesting weren't just blacks. They were whites, they were Latinos, bonded with a common sense of frustration. This Economic Empowerment Center, I'm excited about it because it's going to give all people an opportunity to come in and get it right. Because when you are secure in the execution of your life and your lifestyle, you don't have to become independently wealthy. I've already decided, I'm resigned to the fact that I will probably never be economically independent, financially independent. But as long as I can keep a roof over my head, provide for my family, and do what I want to do when I want to do it, then we'll be okay. And you know what? That's what most people ever ask for. So thank you, John. Thank you to your organization, and thank you for keeping your promise. And my hope is that we will broaden our partnership going forward, and we'll continue to provide hope for all individuals because they'll lift themselves up with economic empowerment. Thank you. You bet.
And to the mayor's staff, I think I want to apply for the job of traveling valet. I'm good at this. I mean, that night didn't mess with him one time with me holding it. I did well. So I'm not on the program again. I got the mic. But let me just say, you got a great mayor here. And you have a beautiful city. It's a wonderful petri dish of diversity and inclusion, economic growth, prosperity, stability, tolerance. Don't mess it up. Don't let anybody else mess it up. It's your special sauce. I love you. I'm out.
Thank you, Mary Hancock. And thank you, Randy. Thank you, everyone with the City of Denver. Thank you so much, Michelle, for your leadership, your support, and for hosting us and having us here. We look forward to growing with you. I wish you all a happy Memorial Day weekend, and thank you for coming. Take care.